Cool. So let's see. Let's do the names one more time. We got Hank. We got. I don't know why I'm just not getting your name right now. Come back around here. No, not Ian. TJ. Man, I'm really struggling here. What's your name? Damien. Damien. Stephanie. Steve.
Joe.
What is it?
Gerald.
Joe? Joe.
Joe.
They said Gerald. I was like, no, it's not. That's definitely not it. all right. Let me just do this. I'm eventually gonna figure these out. All right. The problem is I should have made like flashcards or something the first time. Joe, Hank, Damien, Steve, Stephanie, and TJ. All right. So before we get into these couple steps, one thing I want to show you guys is how cool your Slack should be. So, all right, this is like a tale of two Slacks here. On the left is my Slack for work, and on the right is our Slack. Well, this one is actually my Slack for work too, but let me switch this to BEWD. Our Slack for BEWD. All right. What are the big differences between these two Slacks? This Slack here and this Slack here. That's right. Everybody is using the work one, and no one is using this one except for me. Let me tell you a little trick about Slack, and the reason I bring this up is because you guys are all going to work on teams at some point. If you decide you want to continue to be software developers, which I hope you all do, because it's awesome, and I like doing it. You're going to all work on teams someday, and I can say without a shadow of a doubt that group chat is like one of the best tools, like even like cooler than Rails. It's actually a better way. I would say it's a better way to develop software than even like using Ruby on Rails. I would never go into a project without group chat. I could potentially use a bajillion other frameworks. So group chat is really, really cool because it's like self-documenting and it's also asynchronous. So the nice thing about group chat is you can ask a question and then I can get back to you at any time. And then the other thing you should be like in group chat is that you should never be afraid to say things in public, because then people will be able to, your coworkers and your friends will be able to, maybe they can't answer your question, but at least they'll know that the question exists. And then later on, if I were to get back to it, or like somebody had a similar question, you guys could kind of expand on the idea. And like this happens all the time. Like here, like I put this little screenshot in here right before I left, where I said, oh, like this thing happened. And then I see what I do is I mention, let me kind of scroll in here with control. So here I mention the people that are kind of relevant, and then I use this like /cc, just meaning like that's kind of like an email convention, like /cc somebody else, and then they'll go back in and they'll comment on it, and like that kind of like helps you figure out what's going on. And here's Larry, he's got an issue. Oh, there's a fix. Then everybody's like, oh, thanks, Larry, you're so smart. Oh my God, thank goodness. And Larry's actually a graduate of this same program, so it totally works. But so for the remainder of the class, tonight I'm gonna show you a huge gist with like a ton of stuff in it. On the start of this class, I'm actually gonna put the gist into Slack. And it's funny because I was like, oh, I gotta make it short like for you guys so that you can get it, but I forgot my Slack. So what I'm gonna do instead is, oh yeah, sounds awesome. I'll import it. That sounds great. What do I have to do here? I gotta hit something. All right, well, whatever. Very cool. So, so for the rest of the class, definitely feel free to like talk in Slack and like don't one-on-one. Like there's nothing that's secret. Like none of your stuff is like secret. So just do it in general, and that way everybody can kind of be part of the communication, and like we can see what people are working on and whatever. So I'm gonna like hit you guys on channel, and like actually what I'm doing with this add channel, that's like totally bad form. You should never add channel. You can only add channel like in general. Like it gets so annoying. It just like totally overflows your email box. But I'm add channeling you guys because I know you guys aren't in there. It's like I'm in here and I'm like chilling all by myself. So come into Slack with me whenever on your computer. Whenever on my computer, I always have Slack open. Like I'm always just like on. It's always green. So like whenever your computer's open, just open Slack up. You just hang out, and that way nothing has to happen. It's just like if you want to be part of the mix or whatever. So even when you're at work, you can go on Slack, and that way if you see something else, or you find a link that's like cool, like just hit up Slack. All right. End of Slack rant. Fair? Anybody have any questions about Slack? Okay. Are you guys gonna get Slack for your current jobs in some way, shape, or form? Seriously, think about it. It's great. It's great.
I've Slack where I work.
Yeah. And do you guys like it?
Yeah.
Cool. I ordered. There are other Slack competitors. There's HipChat and Basecamp. No. What's Campfire? Campfire and HipChat. We had HipChat before. It's also great. It's like pretty much the same as Slack, except for Slack has like additional features that nobody really needs. Okay, so with that, why don't you guys pull up this gist? This is a really, really cool gist in the sense that it's a big, long gist here of all kinds of different features. But the thing is, I think that you guys have everything you need to do all of them. I was kind of going through, I wasn't here from the beginning of the class, obviously, but I was going through what Paul went over in the class. I was going through some of your apps on Bitbucket. I added myself to Bitbucket. I wasn't even on there before, but I had myself to Bitbucket, and I followed all you guys, so you guys can follow me back if you want. And I looked at a bunch of the apps, and I was like, we're good. We have what we need now to finish betastore. This is our chance. And the most important part, I think, of like finishing betastore, meaning like getting to kind of like the minimal viable product piece where we can charge people money for stuff, is going to be the shopping cart. Shopping cart. What's a shopping cart? What's the difference between a shopping cart and a regular old website?
Shopping cart or regular website.
Yeah, like you should like imagine like go to like, what's so special about a shopping cart? What does a shopping cart really let you? What you do? Let you buy things, which is super incredible. Make money, which is also really incredible. I guess the answer I was looking for was keep state. Like that's kind of a weird answer. But yeah, it lets you keep state of the things that you actually want to check out with. So like if you didn't have a shopping cart, you'd have to check out with items one by one, right? Like, this imaginary scenario. You ever seen like those PayPal buy it now buttons? They're kind of like antiquated now, but like if you went back to like the good old days of the web, like 1992, it was just all PayPal buy it now buttons because nobody knew how to build a shopping cart. But luckily we're not in that time anymore, and everyone knows how to build shopping carts, and soon you guys will too. So that's kind of the core of today's effort is going to be point 3 through point 9 here, which is going to be the cart relations, storing it in your session, all the way through remove item. So that's going to be like kind of the core of today's work. And then what we're going to do after that is we're going to do create order, which is also going to be great because then we'll know that order was created. We'll talk for a second about duplicate orders, and then number 13. This one should be exciting for all of you, particularly people that have really exciting ideas about how to make money with the internet. Charging credit cards with Stripe. Stripe is a credit card provider. It happens to be a very, very easy one to use, but a very good one. It's very, very competitive rates. So I totally recommend that one, and we're going to learn how to use that one too. If we get around to it today, and if not, then Paul will pick up this list tomorrow or on Wednesday because this is kind of all we need. And then there are a couple of other things that are kind of like housekeeping. It's like 14s and 15s. These are what I call the edge cases of the world. 14s and 15s are all around us. There are all kinds of little things where we're going to be like, things we're just going to come around and screw around with us. Like, for example, if we've got a perfectly good list of products, and then we've got users that are using the site, and then somebody's like, oh, you know what, that product is not available anymore. Let's delete that product. And then you've got users, they've got shopping carts out there. What's going to happen when you like delete that product from your database? Like, how's it going to break all the shopping carts? Or like, this is a piece of business logic number 15, like, not combinable. This is you can imagine like maybe there are certain items that are like promotional items, and you can only have one promotional item in your cart at the same time. So this is something that we're going to implement too. So this is the big old list of things that we're going to try to work on. So let's take like 90 seconds and like read the list and think to ourselves, and then I'm going to kind of go through and just like put in my 2 cents about everything, and then I'll kind of cut you loose. And what we'll do is we'll just basically work in order, and then every once in a while I'll come back up here and I'll kind of like do a little show and dance about how to solve some particular problem. Okay, so read now for 90 seconds. And as you're doing this, what you should be thinking is, okay, number 1, customer-facing product list. Do I know how to do that, or are there things I'm not sure about? And how long do I think that's going to take? Is that going to be really, really easy, or is there pieces where like it's going to get a little foggy and I'm not sure exactly how to make that happen? These are the questions that, like, when you look at a list of features, that's what I'm always asking in my head. I'm like, okay, do I know how to do that, or do I have to look stuff up? And like, how foggy is the process versus how clear is the process? Okay, are we good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, all right, customer-facing product list. Basically, we just got a list of products, is what I'm imagining, and then like a button next to each one of them that says add to cart. So you're just gonna like imagine like your admin list of products. Now create a new front end one that's kind of meant for consumers. You don't need to have the edit buttons or the delete buttons because consumers can't edit or delete products. They can only add them to cart. They are just sheet. Next thing I'm talking about here is a controller test. I specifically chose controller test because I don't think you guys have written them. Have you written controller tests before? You have, okay. Well, I also really like controller tests. I think controller tests are the fastest and most reliable Rails tests, and I feel like you get a lot of bang for your buck here. So what I'd like for you to do is, from this product list, what I'm imagining is each of those add to cart buttons, that should be like a button 2 that calls a method on your products controller. And what I'd like to do is start off with just being like this add. I would just like add. You're gonna have a products controller. You're gonna have like an index method that's gonna be all your products. And then what I would do is create a non-RESTful method called add to cart. And I want you to post your product into add to cart. And then what you can just do is you don't actually have to do anything because we haven't covered cart yet. So let's just make a controller test where you post the product into that thing and you get a success if the product exists. And if you like post the product doesn't make any sense, then like I don't know, you get a reasonable response, like a 4 or 4 or something like that. Cart relations will break. We'll kind of get to cart relations, like so we basically get 1 and 2 done, and we'll talk about the cart relations together. I think that'll be like a good little kind of. That probably take us like at least 45 minutes, I think, to get there. And then we'll talk about the session stuff a little bit. We stored. What are some things we've already stored in session in the betastore app to date? Yep, we were logged in as. That's a really good one. Are we storing anything else in session? Nope. All right, I can't think of anything there, actually, honestly. But session is a very flexible storage mechanism. You can read a lot about it in the Rails guides here. These session guidelines here. Oops, wrong one. So there's a whole bunch on security that's trying to scare you away, but I think the one part that's actually really, really important is this 2.4 and 2.5 here. What is session really? Like, what is? If you guys have any idea how it's implemented? Joe, what do you got?
Stored in your browser.
Yeah, right. So it's something in your browser, some piece of information. It's implemented as a cookie. Is it a secure place? Can you store anything you want there? Yeah, you can actually, but it can't. It's not secret. You can't store secret information there because you're going to send it to the user every single time, so they can open it up if they want it. It's not encrypted. But it is secure in the sense that if you put something there, you can verify that it's not tampered with, and you can do that through the Rails signature signing system. So it turns out. So how big can session be? Could you store like say a list of a dozen products in your session? No, because session's only a cookie, so cookies have a certain length. That length kind of varies between a couple dozen bytes and a couple hundred bytes, depending on which browser you're working with. But you're better off kind of keeping cookies you're keeping cookies short and keeping your sessions small. So you wouldn't want to store anything that's like a full object graphic session. You're better off storing primitives. So like, what are primitives in Ruby? Ian. Right? It kind of doesn't really matter because Ruby doesn't have primitive implementation. But like primitives in most programming languages are things like strings and integers, like stuff that you get with a net HTTP stream. Would that be a primitive? No, it's like some other stupid thing. It's like a whole big thing, right? Primitives are like easy stuff, like strings and numbers. That's like those are the basic building blocks of like code. So you want to store something that's a string or a number in session, because that's nice and small. If you try to serialize something else, like an active record model into session, that's never gonna work. That's gonna blow up right away. So that's an important part of that session. And you can store whatever you want in there to a large degree. The only big downsides there is the primitives things. You just you can't put too much. And how much is too much? Well, unfortunately, it kind of depends. Like it depends browser by browser. But essentially, stick with like the basic guidelines of storing IDs to object graphs, and you can just serialize. You can like bring the object graphs back together there. So then what we're going to do is we're going to do this add to cart method where we actually, okay, so we're going to go modify the add to cart method that we had on product, so we actually store it in the cart instead of like the original implementation in point 2. The idea was just to have a kind of a dummy method. And then we're going to all do a whole bunch of other stuff, and we'll recap that when we get there. So let's start with the customer facing product list. Let's see those list of products that add to cart method. Cool. All right. So I'm going to sit here and for like, I don't know, 15 minutes here, I'm going to kind of live code all these little things. So if you get stuck, you just want to follow along, or if you get really stuck, then just speak up. We'll come chill and we'll figure out where you are. And this is getting recorded. Remove from cart is on there. Remove from cart is 9. Yeah. It's recording, yeah. All right, cool. Oh yeah, no, go to class. Just or go to tab. Just switch this. How does this work? You bring that down. You know what we can do? We can switch this up. You bring that down. We'll put this one. Nice. Easy. All right, my friends. Where are we? Let's take a little. How we doing? How are people feeling about this? It's like we got the product list. We got the add to cart button. We got the maybe we started the controller test for this add to cart thing. Is this happening? Yeah. All right. Created it. Okay, so because we're talking about the product list. So you're already onto the cart relations part. Cool. All right, cool. Let me walk around. All right. So like this is kind of gonna be my little sample app. It's just got my product list. Everyone's got an add to cart button, and then I add something to my cart, and I get like a little notice that says add an item to cart. I don't actually have a cart displaying at this time, but we're gonna add that. So you made a method to call it? So we get the dev button there. So the dev button, that's probably the word. I mean, you're eventually going to move into that customer floor, so it's fine.
I think they're going to go along for the customers. So
Yeah,
just a little bit down there, and then unless
Actually,
actually you just grab
you
Instead of
put on
doing that,
customer floor or put on
initial work, I'll just store the
Right.
card information. It's usually a little test.
Right.
I don't even walk into
Right. And you're just going to do that same logic and then
initially.
really end it up with. How's it going, David? Thanks for having something happen. All right, button two. Okay, so what's the deal with that? What is that trying to tell you? So the first question I would ask is, whatever undefined method area, is that a method that I'm supposed to make or is Earl supposed to make? You're supposed to make it. So how do you you make methods that end with path? They kind of get generated, right? And so how does Rails know which methods to generate? Yeah, where those come from? But the resources, resources. We say resources products. Resources quotes. Resources customers. Routes file. Yeah, the routes file. Yeah, that's a really good trick. Always look this up with Apple. Apple P, Command P. Just type in which routes. Oh, here we go. See how we did that? With the one we did the vote button down with the products.
Right. So I have the same thing.
Yeah, so it's because when we say resource, we're going to get all those ones we expect. Index, show, new, update, create, delete all those. If we want to have some special one, then we have to use member or collection. What's the difference between member and collection? Collection is on all, and member is a single. So if you have a single product on your cart, that should create that path. Cool, yeah. Well, we just got the voting hooked up there. Right, now you got another cart button. Cool. I love this. Good. Nice move. All right, cool. And now you're going now. All right, so yeah, so I think what I probably do is revert back to the path and just like question or something like that, and then we can start controlling. I guess. So these messages are always actually pretty important. So go back to that. Reading these relative pairs is kind of it's always important. So like no method error in products. Okay, so no method error, that's the exception. And then undefined method name for no class. So what's nil?
So it's the same product name doesn't exist.
So it's kind of an interesting method. It's an interesting error. So it's saying name does not exist on nil. So there's the nil on nil. It actually has methods. You can call empty on it. You can call is nil. There are a whole bunch of methods. You can try this out in Ruby. Just like with IRB. And you can always do Apple A. Apple Shift D. This way out. Alright, so I do Apple Shift D. Give it a split. So you can see these both at the same time. And then you can roll see. Now you're. I forget how. Why mine never gets to the right directory. Forget about it.
Mine always goes back to the.
Oh, you just. Alright, then you can move over there. Move over there. Then roll out. Alright. So just say P equals nil. Now, so you get this nil up there. So you can say P dot nil question. So that's a method on nil. Is it nil? And you also like if you've got a Rails console here, so you can say P dot question mark. Not question. It's the same. It'd be the opposite. Right? So that's P have a method called name. Try that out. P dot or whatever it was. Description. So name not defined, and then also name without a question mark. Try that out. Alright, cool. So this is the same thing. Undefined method. So no method error, undefined method name for no class. So that means whatever you're calling your thing on is nil. So back in that Rails console, just for the error page that you got, the right error page. So what's nil here? Well, man, I'm looking at what's nil? Right. So it's not being set. So
Right.
let's go find that. So where's that being set? Control. Alright.
So I guess that's what I'm confused. Like, I know it's
I feel like you have something. I feel
Totally
like you got something.
exact same
You
thing.
got something.
something else.
Yeah, this is such a frustrating one too. Okay, so when I look at this file, immediately I'm like, this file's totally jacked up. Why do I see that? I don't even have to look at any of this code. All I do is just look at the left hand side and I'm like, this is totally jacked up. It's because of the indentation, right? So see how all of this is matched against all of this. So Ruby's not white space sensitive, so the indentation isn't meaningful, but it's meaningful to us as programmers. So it indicates to me right away all this stuff is the same level as this class definition. So all this stuff is not actually inside this class. It's just anonymous methods, just lying in there, lying around there, not doing anything. So this end here, yeah. And that's one of those things. It's just like it's a pain in the ass. It's, no big deal. But you want to move that in all. And then indent all those guys in there, and then that'll help the visual cue to be like, oh, now I see why that's called. And if you look for like, this is something that sometimes it's really helpful to turn on for a while, and sometimes it's really annoying to turn off. But there is like an auto indent plugin for that if you hit C, you have an auto indent file. So it's just like something something to go to existence. So yeah, so in this case, so why was the method show working at all? Why didn't you get a like go to your routes file and you've got products here. So let's see, where are these methods? Make a get just like inside a member, so like get, and then just make a name there. Get. So not there. Yeah. Go there. So try that out in your browser. So go back to your browser and make it products /2/ go there.
I need the number for that?
Yeah, because it's on member, so it's going to be in here in the number. So So that means it's a method on a particular one. It's you got the it's not you've got this value, no there, that's just like no. So you can change it if you want. Okay. So what are you gonna before you hit enter? What are you gonna get? What kind of error are you gonna get this time? Alright, well, so it's not figured out. Let's try it. No action, right? So it says there's no action for that thing because you haven't implemented the action. So why did when you had all your methods back in the view, when you had all the methods not in that class back in your sorry, in the I meant in your view when you had all these methods not in the product control, why didn't you get that error? Why didn't you get the no method error? Because you didn't have to show inside the product.
Is it only just because I had a view?
Yes. It's because of Rails. Rails is so intelligent that if you if you don't implement the action, the default will look for a view name that and then just serve that view. So if you go to products now and you create a node now there, that HTML and ERB file, that will get served for you. And you can do that just to prove it yourself. It doesn't matter what you made there. Alright, refresh that. Product doing its thing, guys. Internet is a little flaky right now, it seems like. Are we gonna use this actually when we come back? So maybe it's only for the small ones. I guess okay. So maybe I guess the maybe the Rails controller base will implement the RESTful action for you. Maybe it's not the case for all of them. So that
So
Rails.
it's something custom.
Yeah, it's custom it's not there. So I guess in that case you have to go implement yourself. So again, go.
If it was set up correctly and it didn't actually, it was just static HTML and the show page was just, it wasn't actually using any
Yeah.
definition
Then it'll be
or-
fine.
It would have actually
It would have
created it like a false, like,
We'll go ahead.
it
You
would
can
have like wired it up on the back end.
let's undo this stuff. Yeah. So sure because I misspoke. So what you could do is just comment out the body of show there. Just put it as then go back to the routes and leave that thing we had in there. It's just gonna be confusing later. Alright, and then go back to products control for 1 second. And just comment out that method, which will be the same as not defined again. Alright, and then go back to your show thing. And then you only got one place here. Let's see. You can just comment out, say like this time.
Yeah.
For sure. Alright, and then you could go ahead and you can implement a new just make some words on top of that comments about what they should show method or show file. So let's try that. Actually, Steve, actually. Yeah, you can this one. Alright, and what do we get? Let's go up there. We save that file. Well, you know why? Why are we getting this? Why are we getting this error?
Is it still reading it back?
Well, it doesn't. ERB doesn't actually doesn't follow HTML comments. You can template ERB into HTML, so you have to use an ERB comment, which is fine. But so just go over there. So you can actually use an ERB comment, but the problem is ERB comment can't test. So just put that whole thing out for the port instead. So you can test out this. So put lines 2 through the end. Just cut it. Save. Don't worry, it's not. So now you got that thing. So, but if you go back to that, if you go back to the atom file, put this up back. So even if it's in an HTML comment, DRB is super versatile. You can comment all kinds of awesome stuff. And that includes HTML comments. So now you want to do it. Now that I think of that, that doesn't work. So if we go back to your browser, very fresh. No method error. So that, because we got, because we have the show method still commented out in the control.
Yeah.
You were totally right with the finding on pride. If you had the finding on pride uncommented and you weren't hitting it, then that's one of the indicators to your wait a minute, this method's not even being called at all. So I would have told you about that.
If only I had, yeah.
So it's one of those things you should have to learn. Yeah. It's one of those things that's like the indentation is really key. That's what people focus on. All right, cool. That's pretty good.
There it is.
That's totally right. You got the rating in there. You got the card. Cool. Nice. Nice. Wow. All right. How you doing, Hank? Doing all right? You working on these tables?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Nice work.
I got the table set up. Got a relationship is that customer or that cart wants to customer,
Sounds good to me.
but customer has one cart.
Well, so that's an important question. How many times do you want your customers to be able to come shop at your store?
Oh, right. Okay, so it's a different cart. Okay, so that's what it is.
I think that'll help you. That'll help you, right? Still good. Sure. You definitely shouldn't have to create that cart because when you're adding to your cart, it's probably going to be what kind of piece you can be that is going to be post, right? And then what do we usually do after a post? You got that. Yeah. Cool. So you just make a redirect. And you want to build that deal. Anytime you make anything but a get, you can always redirect from. Those are good. All right, where you at? Show me your browser. Your browser is more rich.
Yeah.
So much good stuff. All right. No method editor. This is this. All right.
What?
Yeah, I've got those.
That's
All right. Yeah, you
yeah.
definitely.
What's that?
Definitely. So
Oh,
there's that
that's-
control.
that-
Great.
Yes.
Totally great.
My
So,
goals. Okay, so I
Back
have
in your browser.
an editor
So what do you got? You got a
that was
button.
made in,
And what is it for your button?
as opposed to an editor that was made in John's.
Well, I don't know.
This is literally
What I need to do is look at the parameters.
Yeah. It's crazy, but it's I don't know, it's just really slow. So it's like
It's not so deep. So if you don't say parameters, then
I
you
was
get
going to ask you about the shortcut to this, but you don't use
that's the API
shortcuts
or
are
whatever else.
the same.
That's really the only website you
the
really need.
info page.
So the parameters are listed right above meaning optimization and options is pretty generic. There's a bunch of information. So if you follow that subsection there that says options, it'll explain to you what all the different options are. And those options, that honestly to me is pretty big too. I'm sure if I would have been to scroll down further to examples. And down here you can actually understand how it's supposed to be used. So as a second example, we'll go on.
Is there some kind of functionality to put in console just run?
What's the first argument?
If you just like write a really basic,
The first, yeah. So the
first
first
set of rails.
argument there is the word new and abstract. So what is that?
Well, I mean, there's in
What's the second? What's the second?
the editor. I know that one has the
Yeah. Cool. So yours, and you know anything about how that so it's a new article pack. So it's the
problem
it's
is
the action of
the way
the
Rails works
new
is that there's so many
articles is
parts.
the
that we can call to each
And
other
then-
that they
and
don't
path.
call from.
because you want the path.
That basically to get everything.
So let's go back to your,
browser. So
no, go back to your intro.
it's,
Alright.
the option
You got about
is
two.
that you can open.
You got Stripe that says what you want. That was the next thing.
See like,
The best, well,
see like.
yeah,
I'm an Irish
yeah,
person, so I want to see that customer, this customer,
it should be some kind of path,
customer
Right.
here.
so, and the way we make the path.
Then the other
we say
option is that
action,
you have resources with like some method somewhere, just put a button down right. And then what it does is it
Right,
opens.
so you know, so that's gonna take you to, so you do your product path, and then you pass
I
it
should
to
just
product.
stick with the concept.
Like you did on the other, you're passing a product. Once you pass the product, let's do that.
Yeah, it's a.
So let's go back and.
It's sort of what you know if you were solving
Like, it's some sort of expect element on one of those at your card.
stuff. Anyway, so one of the things like I should real quick
Is with that, where's that form?
like
Form your product style.
So that's all on the websites out there. Check it out.
I would say
That's
he's,
So what's
I'd
why
say
is the
he's
product
more
style?
intermediate to advanced than.
But so like some of the concepts.
Yeah, but usually we use slash instead of,
You can't
you know, it's kind of easy to use, but.
That's why I always watch the video for Right.
So let's go back to, let's go back to.
Oh, it's this.
Alright, so
Cool,
products.
that's awesome.
That would be, that's what I want to hear. So let's do, maybe we should make it singular, right?
Notes.
Some tips for the.
Yeah, but I don't know, it's a pretty straightforward language, for the most part. It's just that there's some weirdness that happens.
Okay, so this is saying there was no method product.
Especially in
Alright,
Rails,
so this
Rails
has
is
to
going
go
to take
So let's go to our, so product path, because it is a path, that means the Rails is making it for us.
What?
If it already Rails making it for us, it's gonna find the first place in the process.
If you look at it.
Yeah.
Well, with raw Ruby, like Ruby itself is not making it all.
Alright,
Those
so you've got,
options about it.
inside of the admin
As
namespace,
long as it's valid.
you've got, so you can process. And on line 3, you have a special get from products.
But like,
But if you run the rate of
but
routes,
like, establishing has no relationship requires you put as many inside the model for whatever it is you want to put as many on. And then you gotta do blah blah. Like there's so many different steps that you need to take.
in fact, if you go to, if you do just what you're doing, if you go to shell,
In
shell any
Rails, and
Yeah.
they're
See, the
all like
commands are all
different in the sense that they abstract things and make things more understandable.
yeah, you know,
At the same time, you run into the issue
I'm not sure
where
why.
things get
I
so
must have set mine up a
distracted.
little differently than you guys did. Oh, it doesn't. It's in,
And then when you finally hit C, you're like,
it's in,
it's awesome. You're
Basically.
reuse previous.
So right now I'm seeing customer
That's-
information reports.
That's.
And I realize that's a migration, so I can put that in customer.
That lets you do stuff like my favorite trick, which is to do Apple shit. That lets you have your Rails console in another. It's kind of stuff, it's kind of, these preferences menu, oh, so much cool stuff here, you learn so much about how the terminal works, for example. So many different things. Alright, so cool. So let's see, here's our products thing. So here's products. Now what's missing? If we wanted to go to an individual product or if we wanted to go to that add to cart thing, see it's not really described in that routes file. So I think what you're gonna want to do is describe this better. So this get here, you're kind of losing some of the coolness of using resources. Because see, when we use resources, we get all of these products routes defined first, and then products defined product and then product. So, and see how these are all parameters there, so they can take it. So I think if you use resources, then you'd be a little bit closer. And then at least that's what it is. So that's just inside the admin namespace. So you need a whole other one for the regular namespace. So it's pretty much the same thing. It's just you don't need a namespace. The namespace tells you that it's in admin. We actually you had search the storage is the same. And then why don't you just get rid of
So,
one over there? That's regular.
So no, it's going to be the same as this. It's going to be like product equals product dot file with the ID
Right.
section right, and you're going to be like, it's user card. You don't need to set it to a
Okay.
because
And I get that. Isn't that very fresh your Chrome?
Oh God, great session. Hold on a second.
Because now you got these things, so now it's gone on it.
It's going to be something like current user.
Alright, so now you got product history, so that's a good start. So at least you're going to kind of the right place. Alright, so now you want to add
Is the card determined
But the
by
problem is the person not going to exist in that.
You want to have this add
Or
right? So you
So
can
you
do so it's basically add a custom action to a Rails resource.
And then that
Like,
method, that method,
You killing it?
well, it would be a method also.
you go.
Yeah.
You got all your add to cart buttons.
Right, yeah.
Okay, you got our add to cart, you got the button and redirects and stuff?
Oh, I can't remember redirect.
Cool.
Yeah.
Alright, cool. So okay, so I think we're making pretty good progress here. Let's talk a little bit about the relations that are going to be important in the cart items and stuff like that. So when we've got a store. The store is like the app itself. The app has many products, so we've got a products table, which is awesome, right? And we're going to have many customers, many customers, hundreds of thousands of customers, and then you're going to have carts. So how many carts is each customer going to have? One at a time, right? Because you got one in the browser. But how many times do you want your customers to return to your store?
As many as possible.
Alright.
Millions, right? So do customers have one cart or they have many carts? They have many carts, right? And how are you going to know which cart they're using at that time?
Session.
You're going to put it in the session. That's going to be awesome. And how are you going to know which carts have already been checked out with? Ooh, I got that one for later. That comes back to us later in duplicate orders number 12. So think on that for later. Okay, so let's, for the moment, since we haven't actually implemented create order, that's actually down here at 11. Let's worry about that later. For the moment being, customers will have many carts, but we'll just take the cart and we'll store the cart. Will we store the whole cart object in the session?
No.
No, what will we store instead? Steve, what will we store? Whole cart, maybe like the first 3 letters, the first item in the cart, maybe cart ID. I think that's a good call. I think that's a really good call. So we'll create a cart, put the cart ID in there, and then how many? What's going to be in the cart? All the stuff, all the products, right? So like you want to have one product in the cart, or many products in the cart. Okay. So I think we can call them. I guess we already have a thing called products. So let's call them cart products. So I think I said cart items. But we can just everywhere else we can say cart products. That's fine. So a cart product, that's going to point to a cart. So it's going to belong to a cart, and it's also going to belong to a product, right? So it'll belong to a product. So that'll give it a product ID. So that cart item, it'll have both those relationships, and that should pretty much cover that relation. So we're going to create a table called carts. We're going to create a table called cart items or cart products.
Line items.
Line items. Hey, any of these names are valid.
We already have a table for line items.
Line items?
Yeah.
What were those for?
They were just. It was an earlier lecture.
Let's go cart products. I feel like that's an awesome name. It's like a join table for carts and products. Line items, we'll say that. Paul will figure out what to do with that later on. So we have carts, we have cart products. Carts are going to have are they going to have? We have customers. Let's see customers out of the whole equation for a second. So carts are going to have an ID. They're probably not really have anything else. So I'll pretty much have an ID and timestamps. And then you've got cart products, which are going to point back to cart. So they're going to need a cart ID. And they're also going to need a product ID, which is going to point back to the product. What do you got?
On line items, we already have a method that calculates the total based on the quantity.
Right, because it goes to the product and calculates the quantity and stuff. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Does everybody have this line items thing?
Yeah.
This all thing? All right. Well, I guess how do you guys even like associate them with anything? You can just kind of create them.
Right. So the relationship between life items and everything else. I don't remember the relationship exactly.
We did in the very beginning when we go over writing methods.
Writing methods.
Yeah.
That's all right. Let's just like this would be good. This would be good practice. And also we're like kind of going with this whole like cart naming thing. So we'll have cart products, and the line items we can kind of borrow from that. Like let's just pretend like that's not part of the app. That's just like another example earlier on. This will kind of give us a chance to try it again. So I think we want to create migrations for carts, create migrations for cart items, and then we'll go and associate them. One other thing that we probably are going to want to have on cart items that I don't think that we're necessarily. I'll skip that for now. We'll probably have quantity in cart items. That's like a thing that usually you have. You can add 1 sweater or 10 sweaters to your cart. We don't necessarily have like the whole infrastructure for that at this time, but that would be something to think about later on. Another thing that you probably want to have on cart that we'll also skip for now is a customer ID, so that you can figure out because we don't really have a concept of sign in and sign out at this exact moment. But you don't necessarily need that to check out. You just need to have that single card and to be able to store it in your session and to be able to reference it over and over again. So let's go ahead and get those migrations written. Let's finish the add to cart method on product that gives you the redirect, and then we'll run that. We'll build those migrations and we'll take a look at those. Cool. And I'm gonna write the migrations right now. So if you want to see how to do it, look, and if you want to do it yourself, don't look. All right. You guys gotta see this. So I don't know if you guys noticed me doing this, but I made a bajillion mistakes when I was running this migration. So what I like to do, first of all, I always make mistakes. Usually make dozens. So what I like to do is I'll run RakeDB migrate, and then I'll go look at the schema file and be like, okay, is this what I want? So I looked at this, and at first time I did this, I had it said customer ID here, because in the product that I work with every day, we have customers. And then I scrolled down to the bottom, and I said, oh shit, we've got users instead of customers. So then, you can't modify the schema file, obviously, that's no good. So then what I did is I went over here and I said rake db rollback, and that rolls back your migration. And then you can just go modify it and run it again. So then I went over here and I said, okay, I'm going to change, this said customers, I changed this to user. And then I ran it again, and I was pretty happy with myself. And then I went over and I started going through here, and I was about to go to product, and I was going to write something here. And then I realized that I had cart items, not cart products. So then I was like, oh shit, that's not what I want either. So then I got to go over here and I got to go roll back it again, and then migrate it again, and now I have carts and cart products, which is exactly what I want. But this is a great little mechanism here. As long as you haven't distributed your code, so like pushed it to GitHub or something, you can always just do this migrate rollback over and over again, and it's a totally good system. In fact, you can run rollback many times if you want to. If you have multiple migrations, you want to roll them all back and then migrate them again. That way, it kind of like keeps your commits a little clean. You don't have to have migration for every screw up you make. Although you're welcome to do that, that's no problem. There's no penalty for that. All right, so this thing just the way I want it now. Carts, cart products as many cart products. All right.
That's just a method for finding if
I think it will. I'm pretty sure. It's one of those things I always forget if the method actually exists or not. Let's see. All right. So let's go. Find or create. Nah, don't have that. Find our initials.
Check
Initial. Find our initials.
that. Find or create by. Is that what I feel?
That sounds like a good idea. Create by. Yeah, that makes sense because you got to go find it by ID. Undefined method card products. All right, so now at least we got back past there. That's pretty cool. So then maybe we should just put the source in the session for later. So undefined method card products. Card has many. We did there. That's not good. Unknown attribute product. Because maybe products of product review. Probably with has one belongs to. Alright, cool. Better iron part. This was pretty good. Alright. Okay. So I've got some relations. Who's got relations? Let's go walk around, check it all out. Alright, so the way I modeled this is I modeled it like this. So I said, we'll start with the cart product, so that's a little easier. Cart product, one's for cart, one's for product. You guys use this belongs to thing? Have you guys used it before? I really like this. It's very expressive. I had a quantity on here. You don't. This is optional. Line 13, optional. Carts. Both these lines are optional. I think it'd be good to relate to users. I just went ahead and put that in there. And also, eventually, we're going to have orders. Turns out for belongs to. This is something I learned today. Doesn't matter if this exists. So we don't have orders yet, but you can go ahead and write it in there, and then later on you fill it in.
Can we add belong to line items to orders?
This whole line items thing, let's just save on that. Let's just wait some other time. I think it was part of it. We'll just that way we won't run into some collision.
Yeah.
I can't trust me on this one.
Calm down.
Forget about the line items. Yeah, we're gonna that's for something else. I promise. All right, cart products. So that was good. So everybody run that migration and like make that work. Anyone model it any differently? Because there are a lot of ways you could do this.
I added that.
Besides the line items. Don't forget the line items.
Sorry, they were there. And I'm like,
They were line items.
oh, it's the same. I can go back and
If you want to include the line items, Hank, by all means. But nobody else had to include the line items. I don't know anything about line items. I don't have line items in mind. Carts have cart products. That makes more sense. All right. So then we've got this add to cart method. Where should we put that? All right. So let's go back to the gist here for a second. All right. So, okay, cart relations. We covered that. Storing session in cart. That actually doesn't really make a lot of sense. Let's go ahead and modify this file. How about the other way around? How about we store the cart in the session? All right, we'll do that. All right, so storing the cart in session. So we're going to store the cart ID in the session, which is a good idea. How are we going to know when to create the cart? Just create it when you add a product, right? It's like it sounds like a cart question, but it's not. It's not.
The user doesn't have a cart.
So yeah, start with no cart. You know, no big deal. You don't have any products, no cart. So,
If you go on Amazon, you can throw stuff in the cart without being a user.
well, you know, we don't. The user thing is kind of nullable anyway. Yeah, you should. You don't have. I would not associate a user strongly with a cart. But probably what will happen at some point is you'll sign in, and it might be useful for you to be able to look at your carts. As you know, from a perspective of being able to analyze your site, it ends up being useful to kind of know, like, oh, this user had carts. So it also helps you with an important problem you occasionally run into, which is synchronizing different devices. So if you have like a mobile app and you have a website and you want to be able to share the cart with your notice on Amazon, you've got that idea that if you're signed into Amazon, you put something in your cart, you can see it in the app. That's because they're linked by user ID, which is pretty cool. Okay, so I've got a reference implementation of adding a product to your cart. Some of you guys saw it while I was writing it. Do you guys want to see that, or should we all just give it a shot? How about give it a shot for like 10 minutes, and then I'll show you guys the reference implementation. It does a couple of things. It does it does storing the cart in the session, and it does modifying this to store the product in your cart. And I left it in the same controller, actually. I thought about it for 2 minutes, and I decided that it belongs in products control. So,
You mentioned you mentioned migration.
you want to see the migration again? Sure, we can do that. In fact, you guys all have this gist in your somewhere, so I'll do the migration. So the optional lines, I'll just kind of comment them out. That would be these 3 lines are optional. Yep. Well, good thing first, bro. Let's go. 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 That's pretty good. Way to go. Let's find that the cart products are cart. Okay, so whenever you're going to find method errors, I always think, is this Rails' fault or is this my fault? So is this a method that Rails would write, or is this a method that I need to write? Right, you kind of have to write it. So part products. And so how do you think that method shows up? So you're calling it a cart. A cart is one, it's like an active record model, right? That's right. And so like you call this method cart products. What do you expect that to be? Yeah. Or, you said that. You said that. But did you represent that in code? You represent the inverse, which is important to represent. You go to the cart one. There is an absolute substitution. Oh. And that's what I mean by is Rails supposed to write. So like you're like, well, if I set it up correctly, Rails will write it for me. So that's I would describe that as kind of something that Rails is supposed to write for you, but you didn't have to like tell it. That's what I mean. So, did mine correctly? What's the good thing? What's the good thing? Add in the part of it? Yeah, so that's the next one. So you gotta add it. Click that button. So, alright, cool. So then what's the in the control? I gotta figure that. Now I gotta figure that out. I love it. Can't wait.
Some of them are so strange. Assists. With the order of document,
Yeah, well, we're trying to be that thing, right? Adding your cart. See what it is. It like it's not working. Alright, so it says unlimited add to cart path. Product ID. Okay, so add to cart path. Is that a memory that rails is supposed to be fired? Well, the events that end in cat, Rails is going to define for you with this use of the rings. You know, so this add to cart thing, add to cart path, Rails will kind of define for you if you go and set it up with cart. How do you tell what routes and paths URLs and everything is?
So,
Yeah. And then what you can do is, I'm not sure if you're using it, but add to cart is kind of like a special non-RESTful action. So you can use a block after a resource. If you make resources due and block. So that would be the same space.
so,
And then go inside that block.
these guys.
And then inside there, you want to add a custom action. That action is going to be add to the cart. So you're going to do it on a particular model. So I would go look for add a custom action to a member. And then kind of basic. Custom action is non-RESTful action. Rails routes. That's it. Other ones that
What ended up happening is much worse than that.
This is sorry. So in terms of like long-waiting documentation, Rails guys, API to Rails. Really? Well, is you
She did it
Google?
through like making
Alright,
jobs.
so you gotta go through this and you're gonna find this out.
This guy, like, whenever
Adding more requirements. That's what you But you go ahead and tell it get added like that. You just go look for it, right? And if
like,
Steve comes looking for that same picture, you guys are solving the same
was
problem.
that the person?
Right. Let's figure it out. Keisha, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I just realized that I think of one of my other migrations. I deleted my
Actually,
Your line.
adding.
the pictures she was sending.
Huh?
That's your line. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, you're
no,
adding,
no, no, no.
you're adding problems.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Apparently.
She didn't even take her
Oh,
responsibility.
hey, you know what? I can show you a cool trick there.
Oh,
See how I made my products?
Like, killed the guy, whatever. So
So you ever use that seeds file?
yeah. Well, not in this time.
Sometimes,
there's a limit.
so this is kind of like, it's kind of TBD what you're supposed to do with this file. It's kind of up to you. So what you could do is you could seed your application with all kinds of important information that you're going to need, like for the application to boot. Like for example, like a table of zip codes if your application depended on that. Sometimes what I'll do with seeds is I'll put test data in here and then I'll wrap this in if Rails env development. And that way, if it's in development, then I'll do something a little special. There are a couple other ways you could do this, but I find this to be a nice way for me. So I'll say product, delete all. And then I'll go just create a whole bunch of products in here, and that way I'll have them for later on. And that way you don't have to go manually interact with the UI. Good. Good. What do you got?
Just a thought. Since we don't have a way for customers to log in, can we just make it hard?
Well, you can just create the cart. You don't have to associate with the customer as long as you store it in the session.
Without the association there. So
Yeah.
you can just store it in the session. Like, hey,
Well, it doesn't matter. Even if you create the association, you don't have to fill it in, right? Because it's nullable. So yeah, you should just be able to create a cart, and you won't have to worry. You won't have to worry about the customer ID for now. But yeah. So what I would do, for that kind of thing. So I use this faker gem, which I think is really fun, and it comes up with all kinds of cute names. That's why in my beta store, I've got all these silly, awesome granite car and ergonomic concrete pants and all this stuff. So that's just a way to do stuff. Kind of more just stuff. But yeah, you can create products the old-fashioned way by just using the interface. is your chance to beat me to the punch. So this is your chance to beat me to the punch. Did you do the edit part? And then sometimes what goes on, like I said, I'll wrap this in if Rails in the development. No, I don't accidentally run production. That would be really embarrassing.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a good idea. So, right. So, way, just highlight, just wrap.
We've got a highlight there. It's not like friends. Or if you use if you just have a curly brace, it'll wrap a little bit of curly brace. Okay, the left over one, yeah. So then you could do that as a. That's not really simple. So the curly braces and the brackets will do, but the do end doesn't really know about. So you know, it's just this.
And sort of way I can, what's the key for the,
So what you can do is if you just select them all and you just hit tab, just hit that all.
oh, right.
It's cool. Making some stuff. So okay, so this figure thing is totally awesome. If you don't have to do a jump file, definitely not gonna work. So don't worry about it.
Just have one of those guys. Should I?
That. Okay. All right, cool. Now you're actually at the same point where I am. So what I would say is, I don't actually have to. We don't have to display for you. So how are we gonna know if that actually did anything? Yeah, you can do that. You go right into the. What's a quick way we do it if we don't feel like making right? Yeah. That would totally. No one getting out of the rules work out. I'll tell you what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is Rails console. All that thing. Use that all the time. So like what I would just do is go to Rails console. So Rails console is going to connect to the same database that your local server. Let's see. They just say park on last. Let's just try park. It's kind of.
Okay, so
Let's try park.
right.
You can just use that.
I just use some sort of.
Okay, so you have one block. That's what you just said. Right.
Anybody.
There it is. Cool. Alright.
So from customer.
Well, I don't know because parts, the products are associated differently, right? There's part maintenance or car products. So you can just store that in a local variable, and since you're in private here,
So when
Is it prior?
I really like customer.
then the underscore
So
underscore
the
here,
last
will be
so
the last
so
result.
we want to add
It's
the
a
route,
C
right?
equals underscore.
Yeah.
It'll be now C is stored in the part. So now it's like,
When we talk about like relating it, so we have the down here, and then that's what
yeah,
we do.
those are car products. Oh, look at that. Oh, oh, alright, cool. And then now you can be confident. So now you've got 15 rows, and then you add another one, try to get to that. Alright, ooh. What happened? We get the results? Yeah. This is kind of an interesting little thing. So, you notice when we rank car products first, what is this line? What's this? Select car products. In data, right? So this is making data right? And what happened this time? Did you make it? Did you fire seems like you should have enough in the thing. You might need to call the loader for that. So,
And the migration.
well, then, migration to the grid models. Migration models.
Wrong staff.
Scaffolds will create models, and Rails G model will create models. And it'll be will create the migration. I don't even know. I don't ever run the migration generator or look for the generator. So you just want to get into create clusters. But that way, just remind yourself that the models are actually not really anything. They're just all they really do is the name is going to match out. Beyond that, the actual implementation is all comes out of that active base. There's not really and if you want, if the name is matched table, you can actually change it. You can just override the table name. Be right back. All right. Should we look at the reference implementation of how to add products to your cart? Or we need more time? You need more time. All right, that's totally cool. That's totally cool. That is totally cool. How you doing, TJ? Did you get your
Yeah,
things seated in there, everything figured out, get your stuff, whatever. Pretty cool, Jen. That's all right. Don't worry about it. We already have. You guys already have orders and everything. Okay, cool. So, cool. So we can actually copy the cart products and the line items later on. That's gonna be great. That's wonderful. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So then you're gonna add cart products to your cart, something like that.
Yeah.
The products to your cart. Yep. It's over here. Sure. Sure it is. Oh yeah, here we go. Definitely. Cool.
right now it's like
Oh, right. Okay.
it's not great. It's
So you're not getting something, you're not getting the number back?
let's see.
Let's work around. Okay, you can actually run a report. You know how to run a report? Well, so it's real, or relevant. And then just national heat. I like mine.
Yeah, it's
Those are really matter. Those are above,
I don't think the management
those are your user reports.
Like that actual thing.
must cost like a fortune to even like keep it running. So like what's the purpose? I really good they do, like they usually have to pay off too much from people things, so they get sued.
Make the network cable makers. That's also. Right.
We're looking to get into mass virus.
There's, yeah, 243 there. So go to
Like doing rails, rails generate migration.
So there's request. Oh, you're not worried about that so much. Here's your response.
Card.
Response is text message.
Reservation.
Here's string. And what happened to you if you weren't able to see that in your browser? And so, and then go back to the